This is Taliesin McKnight. Hold on just a second here. Okay, there we go. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today I'm going to be talking about how to ensoul a statue. This is something that in some traditions is referred to as eye-opening. How do you draw a spirit into a statue or an icon? And this method, by the way, is also the de facto method, a very powerful method for the construction of a talisman. So this method is outlined in the Hermetica. As many of you know, many Western occult practitioners are fully aware that the Asclepius, which is a Hermetic text that dates back to around 100 to 300 AD, this was translated into Latin. And in the Middle Ages, this was the de facto, philosophic Hermetic text that was available in Europe in the Middle Ages. It wouldn't be until the 15th century that Marsilio Ficino in the Renaissance would translate the Corpus Hermeticum. But the Asclepius was available. And people have been contemplating this text for nearly 2,000 years. There is a Coptic fragment of it found in the Nag Hammadi library. And so the method that I'm going to give today is very simple and very effective. So first of all, I'm going to read just a little excerpt here. I'll try to not make it too long, and we'll get on to the ritual and how you can actually do this. But many of you have read this before, but not everyone is on the same page, I say as I flip pages. We're not all on the same page, okay? All right, bruh? We're not all on the same page, bruh. Not everyone has studied all of this. So in these videos, I try to make things accessible to everyone. So first of all, I highly recommend, of course, the Copenhagen translation. But today, I really like this because it has the Latin and the Greek. I'm reading Hermetica, the ancient Greek and Latin writings, which contain religious and philosophical teachings ascribed to Hermes Trismegistus. Introduction, text, and translation, edited and translated by Walter. I apologize that my camera is backwards, but there we are. Okay, excellent read. So let's take a look at this. In this text, it is page 339. We're looking at 23b, talismans and gods. Well, it's the same method to construct a talisman. And it talks about how human beings make statues that serve as the body, that ensouls a spirit or divinity or daimon. So I think it's very useful to think of a talisman or a statue, and it applies to other forms of magic, everything from a conjure bag to a bottle spell, jar workings, all of this. We gather the body, all of the physical ingredients we gather, and they have life force also. You gather the ingredients, this serves as the body or the vessel, and then you call down the soul, the essence, the spiritual forces to be encapsulated in this form that you have made. It is also shown as, reflective of the sex act of reception and projection. So, we're reading the Asclepius 3:23b. It says here, And now that the topic, and I apologize for the translation, it uses men and gods and calls God Father and all these masculine terms. But of course, it should be understood mankind, divinities, etc. Anyways, I read. And now that the topic of men's kinship and association with the gods has been introduced, let me tell you, Asclepius, how great is the power and might of man. Even as the master and father, or to call him by his highest name, even as God, capital G, God, is the maker of the gods of heaven, so man is the fashioner of the gods who dwell in temples, and are content to have men for their neighbors. Thus man not only receives the light of divine life, but gives it also. He not only makes his way upward to God, but he even fashions gods. Do you wonder at this, Asclepius, or do you too doubt it, as many do? Asclepius responds, I am amazed, Trismegistus, but I gladly give assent to what you say, and deem man most highly blessed, and that he has attained to such felicity. Trismegistus. Yes, you may well hold man to be a marvel. He surpasses all other creatures. As to the celestial gods, it is admitted that all men, that they are manifestly generated from the purest part of matter, and that their astral forms are heads, as it were, and heads alone in place of bodily frames. But the gods whose shapes are fashioned by mankind are made of both substances, that is, of the divine substance, which is pure and far nobler, and the substance, so the soul of this, right? And the substance which is lower than man, namely the material of which they are wrought, meaning the wood or the stone, whatever you're fashioning as the house of this divinity. And they are fashioned, not in the shape of a head alone, but in the shape of a body with all its members. Mankind is ever mindful of its own parentage, and the source whence it has sprung, and steadfastly persists in following God's example, and consequently, just as the Father and Master made the gods of heaven eternal, that they might resemble him who made them, even so do men also fashion their gods in the likeness of their own aspect. Asclepius responds, do you mean statues, Trismegistus? Trismegistus responds, yes, Asclepius. See how even you give way to doubt. I mean statues, but statues living and conscious, filled with the breath of life, and doing many mighty works. Statues which have foreknowledge and predict future events by the drawing of lots, and by prophetic inspiration, and by dreams, and in many other ways. Statues which inflict diseases and heal them, dispensing sorrow and joy according to men's deserts. Now, it goes into this long prophecy, which is unrelated to what we're talking about today. So I'm going to read one other paragraph. This is a much longer text, but we're looking at particulars here. We go to, in this book, page 361, page 38A, or section 38A, okay? Asclepius says, and these gods who are called terrestrial, in other words, there's gods up there, or we think of it as up there, like beyond our level, right? And then there's what's called terrestrial gods, meaning the ones that we make. Meaning we make statues and we call the celestial into the terrestrial. Same way with like a talisman. And these gods who are called terrestrial, Trismegistus, by what means are they induced to take up their abode among us? Hermes Trismegistus responds. And it's pretty cool, because this was written, nearly 2,000 years ago. This is ancient knowledge. So Trismegistus responds, they are induced, Asclepius, by means of herbs and stones and scents. Herbs, so plants, stones, and incenses, perfumes, oils, right? The gods are lured into the statues by means of herbs and stones and scents, which have in them something divine. So, Suntamata or symboli, or what do you call it? Basically using these correspondences. And would you know why frequent sacrifices are offered to do them pleasure with hymns and praises and concord of sweet sounds that imitate heaven's harmony? So like prayer and songs and devotion and prayer to these statues. These things are done to the end that, gladdened by oft repeated worship, that's a key here, repeated worship and veneration of the statues, the heavenly beings who have been enticed into the images may continue through long ages to acquiesce in the companionship of men. Thus it is that man makes gods. And you must not suppose, Asclepius, that the operations of the terrestrial gods are to no purpose. The celestial gods dwell in the heights of heaven, and there each one of them unswervingly accomplishes the part assigned to him in the ordering of the whole cosmos. But these are gods on earth below see to things individually, like more one-on-one, predict events by means of sacred lots and divination, foresee what is coming and render aid accordingly. They assist like loving kinsmen in the affairs of men. Thus the celestial gods rule over things universal. The terrestrial gods administer particulars. All right. So, the Asclepius. So how do you ensoul a statue? I'm rubbing my hands because we're getting to the nitty-gritty, y'all. How do you ensoul a statue in magic? How do you call down a spirit to dwell in a statue? So a temple is a Beit Elohim. A temple is a house of God, or the gods, or the spirits. But the holiest part of the temple is the image. It holds the glory, right? The kavod. It holds the glory. So how do you do this? It makes like a personal doorway where the divinity dwells in the image, You can do this with a doll, Ooh, you're infusing a doll with the spirit. Yeah, yes, this is magic. This is witchcraft. This is like kind of what we do, So this method I'm going to give is my personal way that I'm sharing with all of y'all. By the way, in my opinion, this is my method. I'm not saying that my way is the only way. I'm just sharing my thoughts, my opinions, and my way, which may help you. And maybe you don't agree with everything I have to say here, which is fine. At the least, you get to hear someone else, another practitioner's perspective, and also you may gain another insight. But I think this is a very good way. Now, my opinion, this ritual will be as real and serious as you make it. This ritual will be as effective and as real as you make it. The spirits respect when they see effort. So the method's very simple. First of all, now this is just my opinion. When you're making a ritual space, You want to clear everything out that's unrelated. People try to banish energies that are unrelated, but they leave physical things that are distracting and jarring and maybe of a different energy, an unlike energy to the thing. This is just me. Okay, some people do ritual and they have like a little Snoopy plush pillow or a SpongeBob, and they got like, I don't know, a poster on the wall of, you know, I don't know, some kind of metal. But me personally, when I do a ritual space, I clear everything that's unrelated away. That's me. At least have things that are sympathetic to the working. Next, you're going to want to physically clean the space. Vacuum the carpet, or mop the floor, sweep and mop the floor, wipe down the table, maybe even wipe the walls behind the table, dust. You want your area that you're going to perform this ritual and where you're going to have the image or statue, you want it to be clean, physically. Next, you're going to want to physically clean the statue. Just running water. Wash the statue, wash it physically, and then wipe it with a towel. Make sure everything is clean physically. Then you go to cleaning things spiritually afterwards. So, you've cleansed the space, you've cleansed the statue or the icon or whatever, the artwork, whatever. What are you going to need for this? Salt, water. Me personally, when it comes to ritual, the physical cleansing of the statue, I just use tap water. But for ritual purposes, I like to use spring water, something natural, something that's not, tap water. You'll need salt, water, and oil, and incense associated with the spirit, and a gift. It could be a food offering. It could be a glass of wine. It could be whatever. A gift. An offering. You're asking for something, you're presenting a gift out of respect and devotion. So salt, water, an offering, oil, and incense. Now, if we go by what the Asclepius says, and if we go by what Agrippa says, and what the methods of ceremonial magic traditionally, these are going to need to be things that relate to the spirit. Now, what if you don't have a tradition of a particular incense or oil of the spirit? I think it's good to follow the tradition. If there's a traditional incense that's been established over long periods of time, I think it's good to get into the rhythm or the current. And I also think that entities have their own likes and dislikes. They're used to being approached in certain ways. But if you don't have that, there is no traditional incense or oil that goes way back with this saint or spirit. What do? Ask. Ask the spirit. Please reveal to me your incense. Please reveal to me what type of anointing oils. Please reveal to me what you want me to place here. And this is starting to build this ongoing communication. Okay. So anyways, you have your salt, water, incense, anointing oil, and gift. Could be food offering or a glass of wine or something, right? So, you're going to want to light some candles. You're going to want to make some holy water. Now, if you go to WikiHow, that's the wizard source, right? WikiHow. But yeah, you go to WikiHow, you could find it's the traditional Roman Catholic how to make holy water, which was borrowed by the Key of Solomon, which was then borrowed in the 1950s by Gardner and by many modern neo-pagan traditions. This whole, like, you look in any book on modern neo-paganism or eclectic Wicca, it'll say, I exercise thee, O creature of water, or I exercise thee, O creature of salt, that all malignity and phantasms be cast out from thee, etc., etc. That was taken from the Key of Solomon, which was taken from the church. But whatever. You're basically making ocean water. So that probably goes right back to earlier paganism. Salt water kind of looks like ocean water. Anyways, or you can just use your own words, right? Whether you do it in a pagan context, Key of Solomon context, Roman Catholic context, or you just make it up. I bless this salt in the name of the divine. I bless this water in the name of the divine. Mix the two. Sprinkle the area. If you're comfortable with the old grimoire, you can do the Aspergus me domine, hisopod mundabur, lavabis me et super nivum de albabur. Whatever. You're sprinkling the area. Basically, you make holy water, sprinkle the space, light incense, bless the space. You got your candles lit. Next, you're going to want to, cleanse the statue with the holy water. You've already cleansed it physically. You've cleansed the space physically. Now you're going to want to cleanse the statue and have a towel to wipe it. You're going to want to sprinkle it. Think of all the people that have handled the statue, that have manufactured it, the people handling it in the store. You probably had it shipped to you from Amazon or something. People have handled it. So you just want to wipe away, cleanse away all energies. And it's not that all energies are bad, but if you're going to serve a guest a plate of food, you should probably clean the plate first. So you're going to want to sprinkle the statue with holy water. Light your candles. Light your incense. Call the spirit. And anointing. Bless the oil. Bless the incense. If you look at the Heptameron, how do I bless the fire and the candles and the end? You can just use the rituals from the Heptameron or whatever, right? It really doesn't matter. I apologize. This is not scripted. I tend to ramble. I'm going on and on. I apologize. Sometimes I don't give the best delivery. Cleanse your area, cleanse the space, light your candles, and sprinkle the image with holy water. Anoint it, blessing it in the name of the Spirit. And you're going to call down, and you're going to anoint it, hold it in the incense smoke. And then the key point of the ritual is I like to hold my hands up or hold the wand or focus up, calling the spirit, and then bringing down and touching it upon the head of the image, or the laying of hands, pulling the energy up. It's kind of like attracts like, pulling up, calling to the spirit, invoking it, inflaming yourself in prayer, and then bringing down upon the statue. I call you into this image. Present your gift or offering. And at the end of each ritual, I like to center and meditate, relax, and then your ritual is done. So cleansing, consecration, calling down, present an offering, you have done your eye-opening of this image. So of course we're going by what the Corpus Hermeticum says, that through offerings, through prayers, through incenses and oils, you're able to invite a spirit to dwell in a statue or image. Now, the method that I've given is pretty generic, pretty simple, pretty clear and obvious. But the thing is, there is no perfect formula. The key of this is not the body, but the soul. Many people are focused on the outside of the cup. It's within. Inflaming yourself in the invocations. And like I said, this ritual will be as real and serious as you take it. That's why I think it's good to take a ritual bath. Cleanse the space. Anoint the statue. Show reverence. And through regular giving offerings, reciting prayers, devotions, the statue becomes, I think, both physically and astrally, externally, and also within, as a point of focus, it becomes a doorway to the spirit. The same thing applies to the construction of a talisman. You take a ritual bath, make holy water, bless the oil. You're going to want to cleanse the talisman if it's metal. If it's a paper talisman or parchment, then just around the edges, put the holy water, put the oil consecrated, and invite the archangel or spirit that's infusing the talisman to come into the talisman, hold it in the incense smoke, invoking the spirit. And the same way with a talisman or a statue, once it has been imbued, it needs to be shown the same level of respect that you would if it was the entity itself. So once you have done the eye-opening, which is a term that comes from Buddhism, by the way, once you've empowered your statue or your talisman, it needs to be treated with a level of respect as if it truly does hold that spirit within it. So through reverence and respect, repeated offerings and things like that with the image and prayers and devotions, you're able to maintain that type of connection. So, that's basically it for today. Our source on this, again, is the Asclepius. Dates back to around 100 AD to 300 AD or CE, Common Era. Magicians were reading this in the Middle Ages and in the Renaissance. You have the body now you infuse it with soul or life. The first time I heard of an eye-opening ceremony is actually when I was training in Taoism. I was training in that. I didn't do it for very long, like 6 months or something. Chuanjin Taoism. But, that's when I first heard of it referred to as an eye-opening. But that really refers to, in Buddhism, part of the ritual a lot of times is the actual painting of the pupil of the eyes. But I like the term, but ensoulment, okay? And this same formula of purification of yourself in the space, purification of the statue, talisman, mojo hand, witch bottle, whatever, jar spell, whatever, anointing with the oil, holding in the incense smoke, calling down the force, even though the force may energetically be all present, not just up there, symbolically a drawing down into the image, and then treated as if, which I think it's real. I do think it's objectively, externally real also, so it is. You're just treating it like it is. And even if the magicians out there that come from a more it's all in your head perspective, well, even if it's all in your head, then why not just believe it's real and treat it as if it's real? It all goes back to the same thing. Whether magic be more psychological, external, or both, which is what I think. It's a union of the two. That you treat your magic as it is so. It is a reality. You have manifested it. So that's basically it, y'all. So thank you very much for joining me. Once again, this is Taliesin McKnight. Much appreciated. And I will see y'all in the next video. All right. Have a great day, y'all. And all right. I'm doing this a different way than I normally do, so pardon the awkward closing, y'all. All right, here we go. All right, I'll see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much.